You also started a podcast recently.
I did, yeah.
What is it called? Two beers in or something like that?
No, this is Britain, so 4 pints in.
4 pints in. Sorry.
Welcome to the Up and Away podcast, sponsored by Ecommerce Hero.
Hello, welcome to episode 39 of Ecommerce Hero Daily. I am joined today by a good friend, Tom Robertshaw, previously managing director at Meanbee, now the e-commerce evangelist at Space 48. Congrats on the recent acquisition.
Hey man, thanks very much.
Sorry, I just took a long sip of coffee there. So Tom, tell people a little bit. So in this podcast, we've been doing daily podcasts with my buddy Steve and just talking about a bunch of different stuff. We're going to talk about a couple things today. We're going to talk about some stuff around re-platforming from Magento 1 merchants, because you're talking day in and day out. You had some really good insights on what that decision looks like. And then we'll also just talk about your recent acquisition, really whatever. You're so plugged into the Magento community and doing a lot of interesting stuff. So we'll just kind of go around a little bit. So for those that don't know already, tell the people a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure, yeah. So I actually started an agency with my good friend Nick Jones called Meanbee. That was back in sort of 2009 was when we first started it. 2008 was when we first started working with Magento, recognizing it was going to be, the platform that's turned out to be phenomenal success. And so, yeah, we gradually grew our agency. We actually were both studying computer science at university at the time. Graduated in 2011 and just went full time, started building a team around us straight away, based in Bath in the UK. It's quite
I want to visit Bath, dude. That's one of the places on my
beautiful
list. That's cool.
Yeah, well, you're most welcome. But it's quite a small city, so we're sort of still quite a boutique team. But we focus on our core skill set for the most part, which is obviously the technical background. And yeah, I'm kind of quite proud to say that we've built up quite a good reputation within the Magento community of some of the kind of extensions and tools and client sites that we've released and worked on some like really interesting projects. But yeah, most recently, decided that to kind of wanted to be part of a bigger team. We've been growing gradually. And we're kind of really good at one side of the business, but it'd be great to be part of something bigger. And we recognise that Space 48 would be that amazing partner. They're based up in Manchester, so that's about like a 3 or 4 hour drive north from where we are. They've been growing strength to strength over the years. We really respect kind of their values. I mean, kind of most obvious is that they started the Mage Titans Developer Conference for Magento, which has been phenomenal. One of my favourites, and I was privileged enough to speak at the first one back in 2014. Don't consider myself a Mage Titan, but it is. Yes, I've gone to almost everyone since.
You don't consider yourself a what?
It's hard to call yourself a Mage Titan. When you're speaking alongside Vinay Kopp, it's hard work to put you in the same group.
Titan of industry. I believe it. I'll take it. Yeah.
Promiscuous, I guess, is more so.
John's such a good dude, man, and it's interesting because, like you're saying, Space 48 has kind of there's a lot of smaller agencies that are great at development, haven't quite cracked that sales machine, and then there's a lot of bigger agencies that have kind of cracked. They kind of have the sales machine, and then development quality kind of goes out the door a little bit, or not necessarily that, but development quality is just it varies so much. So they maybe have their A team, their B team, their C team, or their D team, and so you get rescue. Yeah. So, but Space 48 is interesting because they've been able to really see some great growth and grow their team, but while still kind of having that, I don't know what it is, that community like ethos. I mean, and just that vibe and care for development, for quality, for developers and stuff. So
yeah, and definitely that comes straight from John as well. I mean, a lot of agencies have a balance between the senior management. So in Meanbee, that was two developers, and with myself kind of like leaning towards the business side and handling kind of client relationships, but not having a background in that. Space 48, they have the kind of the business side and the tech side, and it's they're both coming from they both have got good respect of the other, and John from the business side has shares a lot of the values they kind of talk about a lot in terms of learning, leadership, and innovation as some of their core values. And I think that really goes to show in what they do.
Totally. So your title, I thought you were kidding at first, is e-commerce evangelist. I love it.
One of those.
You're one of those now. What is that like? What's your day-to-day going to look like? How's that going to break down for you?
Still quite to be decided, because obviously we are becoming the Bath office for Space 48. So some of my responsibilities will still be managing that office, but other than that, we're going to be a branch where I will continue managing like a certain set of clients and managing the team. But hopefully, like I can kind of offload some of the tasks that I was previously doing, just running the company, and kind of get down and dirty in some of the e-commerce as well. So going to more conferences, spending a bit more time, thinking about the future of e-commerce, things that are working well, things that and maybe the industry is struggling to catch up with.
Wait a sec.
Just getting more into that.
Could you possibly go to more conferences? Because you go to the U.S. conferences, you go to. You're really going to like increase your conference schedule?
Possibly, yeah. I think the thing is, there's still so much like more to do. I think I've probably been biased towards Magento's conferences. I've been to one Shopify one before. I'd like to kind of try a few different platforms out, just to kind of see the way the land lies in different perspectives from different software, as well as go to kind of more e-commerce generic. So I haven't gone to so many generic e-commerce conferences, and it'd be great to see and potentially present at those as well, because a lot of what I've done over the years has been biased towards Magento, which has been fantastic, but there's a lot more out there.
Totally.
I think that could be really valuable, kind of being able to go to each one and kind of see different perspectives and share the knowledge between and the learnings from each one at the others. And I think there's a lot of opportunity. A lot of what we talk about in terms of from the development side, the Magento people learning from the PHP community, and I think there's a lot of opportunity in the e-commerce side as well, as not to silo yourself too much, which I think I probably, it's fair to say I've done a little bit, which has been, it's had its benefits as well.
Broaden things out a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, and I mean, you have a lot of things you've done. You've also done it was called the Ecommerce Survey, I think initially, where you did a lot of crawling of websites to collect data around different platforms. You rolled that out as a standalone product as well recently. Tell people a little bit about that as well.
Sure. Yeah. So that was a product of maybe 2 or 3 years ago now, but it started as when we were just starting the agency. I looked at the Alexa Top 1 Million and started writing essentially regular expressions to detect different e-commerce technologies to work out, how quickly is this Magento platform growing compared to OS Commerce, which is it was the competitor at the time, and it really got great feedback. It helped to kind of put us on the map when it came to the Magento community, because we got attention because we were putting Magento in a good light, and that kind of grew over time. And
That's called a growth hack. It's called a growth hack.
It is a growth hack, yeah. Before growth hacking was even defined.
You must be very handy with regular expressions. I'm the type of person, I was doing one yesterday, and I'm like, there's this regular expression tester online that I have to use every time because I always mess something up. But I'd imagine you've done a regular expression.
I've written so many regular expressions. I think we got to the point with Hivemind Research is kind of the company that it grew into. And I think that it got to a point because I started writing regular expressions to match other technologies, not just e-commerce specific as well. And I think I got like over 1,000 different technology detection signatures. So that's a lot. That's a lot of regular expressions. I do not need any more practice right now.
Got regular expressions on regular expressions. That's cool, man.
Yeah, coming at my ears. But it's still one of those things that when you try and do something specific, you still got to Google it. You still got to work out, because there's different variations between like what language you're writing in and stuff like that. So
regular expressions are like so amazing and flexible and useful, but they're just also like so hard to use at the same time.
Yeah. It's the just much like htaccess files and Apache. Like great when you get it working, but it's a nightmare to get there.
Yeah. So anyway, so you put the survey out, got growth hacked the heck out of that. That turned into Hivemind. And are you still tinkering with that a little bit, or? Is that kind of...
No, not so much now, because there's probably a couple of years ago when we kind of gave it a big push and a launch, and we certainly got some sales out of it. But I think that was at the point where we were having to focus a lot on Meanbee as well, and the challenges of Magenta 2. And so it was a case of we decided to pick one, and given that we had an entire business focused on Meanbee, an entire team to support, it's kind of like sitting in the background now. We've got it available to us, but no, it's kind of taken a backseat right now, so we could focus on Meanbee.
Got it. You also started a podcast recently.
I did, yeah.
What is it called? Two beers in, or something like that?
No, this is Britain, so 4 pints in.
4 pints in. Sorry. I screwed that up so bad.
Binge drinking, so we got the reputation.
4 pints in. So it's you and some buddies. I listened to a couple bits of it. You and a couple of your buddies, Nick, and you guys just talk about, test out beers, you talk tech and other things. How's that?
It's just slightly different to plenty of other podcasts, and it is a bit of fun. It's nice to take things a little. I do a lot of serious stuff and career focused things. It's fun to experiment with the whole podcast thing, but on a sort of a lower key affair. So I started it with Nick Jones, who's my fellow co-founder of Meanbee, and then Red Davis, who we've known him for many years. He's worked in the city centre of Bath for ages. He started out as a Rails dev and has moved to iOS over the last few years, and worked for a bunch of companies, including kind of people in San Francisco, and has now gone freelance. So we spend a lot of time together. As everyone does in the pub, thinks their conversation is absolutely amazing, and other people should listen to this. So
once you're 4 pints in, you think your conversation is amazing, right?
Precisely. So it's a range of topics. Obviously, some of it is just a bit of fun, whatever we find interesting that day, but it could be technology, politics, a little bit of philosophy. We do like kind of reading some of those articles about, what's the ideal way, what's the moral and ethical way of dealing with some of the, the challenges of today and the challenges of tomorrow. That's
cool, man. I love that you're brave enough to dip into politics and stuff like that. I try not to. It's one of those things.
It's hard, isn't it?
Scary to touch. So Red Davis, is that his name? Red. That's such a cool name.
Yeah, his name is actually Red. Yeah,
that's so cool. So I saw your tweet recently with his app called Forecast.money. Which is like for freelancers, like a forecasting, it forecasts your cash flow or your run rate and things like that. It seemed like a really nice, simple, clean app. I thought it was really neat.
Yeah, precisely. And this has kind of come out of some of our frustrations. So I'm not sure what the kind of most popular accounting tool is over there. Is it Xero?
Probably Xero, QuickBooks. Yeah.
Yeah, we use Free Agent, which is a kind of UK one. It's a lot of kind of, it's focused towards freelancers and small agencies, small businesses. So it's really easy to use. It's a lot easier to use than Xero. The kind of just the language they use, the design, and it's great. So we've historically used that. But it's the problem with many of these platforms is that they're not that great in actually telling you like the top level figures. You have to delve down deep into the app to find out how much do you owe the government in taxes, how much what's your run rate, how many months left have you got, what's your burn rate. And so this would be kind of born out of that frustration. Just have a one pager and an email every Monday morning that kind of gives you one paragraph with the key facts kind of in bold. So it's like super simple. And the other thing that they added, which I thought was really nice, was certainly from the agency landscape, you want to know how big a proportion each of your clients are in terms of your revenue. And over time that can be interesting, because whether or not one is getting too big, and so then you need to kind of start worrying that you've got too big a dependency, or you might actually find that some of them are like a very small percentage, but actually you recognize that they're high in frustration. And so that was something that they added recently, and that sold it to me alone, because I look in Free Agent quite often and understand the business as you would expect. We have our board meetings monthly, but this showed me stuff that you can't easily do without calculating it by yourself. So well worth the money. So good on them.
That's cool. I thought it was I haven't actually used it. I tried to sign up, but I couldn't. But it seemed like a really clean implementation. Like when you're scratching your own itch and you just have a really clean solution. The forecasting thing is interesting because back when I was with a merchant clean program, I remember we were looking at forecasting around like, obviously a little bit more complicated, but forecasting your sales and inventory and things like that. And I remember looking around, not really seeing anything that seemed like you've got NetSuite and things like that are really complicated, enterprisey. But I was like, man, I feel like there's a gap there for like a nice, clean thing. And then I remember talking to another friend of mine that has a business. He was also totally different business, but he was also like, man, looking for something around forecasting. And then you've got the freelancer use case, which is interesting. So the forecasting thing is kind of neat. I feel like there's probably a lot of little categories you could attack of doing, some really nice, simple forecasting.
Yeah, I mean, we did it on a very small scale in terms of forecasting for stock when it comes to Magento. I think probably 4 or 5 years ago now, we one of our guys he'd come from a merchant and had that sort of insight of a need, and we built a Magento extension that would work out how quickly you're selling out of each product, and combine that with how long does it take to get each product in. You store that as a product attribute. It can then say when you need to order things by, so that you don't ever run out of stock. That's another
dope
form of forecasting.
Why didn't I know about that? Because I was looking for, it must have been about 3-4 years ago when I was looking for that.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Tom.
Yeah. We're a lot better at developing than we are at marketing. Sorry.
Wait, so what was that called? What was that product called?
It's called Run Rate. It's probably on our GitHub now.
That's
because we open source all of our extensions.
That's awesome. Super cool. And how are you? I like how with the podcast you went for a little bit of a twist with, you combine several things that don't always go together in a standard podcast. I think that's a neat idea. And are you having fun with it? Are you enjoying it?
Yeah. It takes, I'm sure, as you know, it takes a lot longer to edit than it does to record. But it's good fun meeting up with friends, because that for us it's just we meet up, have a beer, have a chat, and it's not too different to normal. We just happen to record it.
Nice.
It's my first ever podcast. I think that was one of the things I'm interested in the space, and so this was a good opportunity to kind of get some exposure to it. And so I'm learning about all the kit gradually, gradually upgrading the kit, understanding how the editing works, and hopefully we'll get to a point where we can outsource that as well.